Volunteer?
I'll volunteer, Mr. President.
Okay, Lynn has agreed to serve, so thank you, Lynn. With that, board members have a copy of the agenda in front of them. I'm looking at the one that was not in the book, but there's another one that was on the table when you came. So we do have one change item. Since Tom Holland is not with us, we'll move 9G under the consent items, so it'd be consent item number 4. With that, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
Mr. President, I move approval of the agenda as amended.
We have a motion by Mark.
Second.
Second by Brian. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's approved. Next item is approval of the November 11th regular and closed session Board of Education meeting minutes. You have those in front of you. I ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Brian.
Second.
Second by Mark. Again, any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's approved. I believe we have some correspondence. Lynn?
Yes, we do, Mr. President. We have received a thank you note, the Board of Education and the administration for flowers, a plant that was sent for the passing of Becky Lee's mother. Becky Lee is a teacher at the middle school. Additionally, we received a letter of thank you from Tom Stiles, who is the owner of Safeway Bus Company, thanking the district for flowers that were sent on behalf of the loss of his father. And additionally, we received a letter from the Hudson School District World Language Department expressing concerns about the implementation timeframe regarding the addition of Chinese, or regarding the recommendation of Chinese as a language.
Okay. Thank you, Lynn. We'll move on to student, staff, community recognition. Sandy?
I do not see Sue Dahl here for the one-act play. My correspondence with her, she was coming with a couple people, so I'm wondering if they maybe went to the wrong location. So we'll just go ahead to the second one here. Fall athletics, and I'd like to introduce this evening Stephanie DeVos, our district athletic director, and she'll give us an overview of fall athletics. Welcome, Stephanie.
It was an exciting fall season for all of us, and at this time, instead of listening to me, I would like to introduce to you each of the groups. If in your newsletter packet, we're just going to kind of follow, we're under fall sports highlights. I know boys soccer is on a time frame, so I am going to let them go first. So would Mackenzie Lund, please, and Lars Burkett, please come up.
All right. Don't fight over the microphone.
What?
Go ahead.
Okay. We are the Hudson Raider soccer team varsity. Our overall record was 18-6-3. We had 14 shutouts. We went to Cedarburg to play Cedarburg and Brookfield East with Stillwater. We went to Quincy, Illinois for a national tournament, and we took 4th place in that. Nick Lund has the assist record with 18, and he broke that this year. And he also had the most goals, assists, and points. We had 7 all-conference players. First team all-conference, Nick Lund, and co-player of the conference. Mackenzie Lund, first team. David Mosier, first team. David Nettleton, second team. Lars Bickert, second team. Nathan Sossman, second team. And Brady Wakescheid, honorable mention. And then that's all we have.
Thanks, Lars, and congratulations, soccer team.
The boys soccer team was coached by Scott Massini and Chuck Bublitz. Unfortunately, for us, and good for him, Scott Massini has chosen to pursue a career in administration and will no longer be with us. And we have named Chuck Bublitz the new soccer coach for next year. So good luck, boys. We're just going to go here in order. Next, we have cross country, and Deanne Schlosser will represent cross country, coached by Don Krupa and Amanda Koziski.
I don't know. We had a pretty good season. I mean, didn't have too many problems up. I mean, just fairly consistent overall. I mean, we had Luke and Kayla Fawkes, no, Rachel Zacher go to state, and had just consistently had our top runners like finishing in the top, I don't know, percentage of every race. And just, you know, still fairly dominant in our conference, and we'll have a good team next year. I unfortunately won't be there, but I'll be there to cheer them on, so it'll be a good year for them. And Krupa did a good job in like coaching us and like giving us workouts, and just planning overall was good. So.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations to this cross-country team.
Thanks, Dan. A big congrats to them. They also won the Big Rivers Conference. And I would also like to point out congratulations to Don Krupa for 40 years of coaching. That's a big accomplishment. Next, we have Adam Kells, head football coach.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. You know, we had a pretty good year. We were 6-3 overall in the regular season, and you know, lost 3 tough ones. Got the playoffs for the 3rd time in 4 years, so we're really excited about that. You know, again, lost to a tough Stevens Point team in the first round, but you know, it was a fun year. Guys did a great job. We beat Menominee for the first time in 25 years, I think. So. We're excited about that. You know, that was one of our goals coming in 4 years ago. We said, you know, we're going to set the bar high. We're going to go get those guys, and we're going to keep you know, trying to set high goals for ourselves and the players, and keep going to get them. We had 5 second-team all-conference guys, 4 first-team all-conference. We actually had 3 all-region players, which is West Central region, which is a pretty big region in the state. It goes all the way down to the La Crosse area, and Mark Vandenbroeke and Michael Agatis and Seth Stanchik were first-team all-region, and Seth Stanchik was also first-team all-state. So that's a big honor for him. Overall, you know, the guys really are privileged to work with. They've done some great things on the field and off the field in the classroom. I went through the grades for the first term, and we have 171 players in the program, which is the most we've ever had, which, you know, we're thrilled about. I want to keep going. You know, I want 200. You know, and that's we love the big group like that. We're playing 5 levels, so we're playing 2 9th grade teams, a 10th grade team, a varsity reserve team, and a varsity. So trying to get them on the field as much as we can. But I went through the grades, and 80 of 171, so close to half, got all A's and B's for the first term. So we're really doing a great job in the classroom, and we're going to continue with that. And they know we're always looking at them in the hallway. They, you know, I ask them how you doing in American Lit, and they wonder how I even know that. You know, so it's good to keep up on those guys. But it's a privilege to coach those guys. We had a good year, and we're gonna keep building. Thank you.
Congratulations, Coach.
Thanks, Adam. We're very fortunate to have an outstanding coach as Coach Cowles. Girls golf.
I just want to say to Coach Cowles, just continue to ask those questions about American Lit.
Next, we have girls golf. We have Katie Ecker and Kiki Biggie.
All right. This season we were undefeated in conference, so conference champs. We also took first in all our matches except for 2, which we got second. And we had 3 people on first team all conference, me, Katie Ecker, Cassie Worm, and Ellie Anderson. And then we had one on second team, Molly Fastbinder, and there's only 5 girls on our team, which is pretty good to have 4 out of the 5 on all conference teams.
After winning the conference, we moved on to regionals, and we won there, and we also took first at sectionals. So we went to state this year, 2nd year in a row, and we shaved 50 strokes off of our score from last year. So that's a pretty big deal.
Way to go.
Where we took 8th place.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Congratulations, girls, and the golf team.
Next, we have representing girls swimming and diving, Chella Bogum and Noe Anderson. Coaches were Dick Clark, Sarah Rudisell, and Kelly Hackler.
Our season started off a little rocky since we had a change in coaching staff, but once we met them, we really came together and did a good job and had lots of fun. 3 of us made the all-conference team, which would be Noe, Katie Weiss, and myself.
I just wanted to say that this year was an amazing year for our swim team. I mean, compared to last year where we got 11th at sectionals and conference, we got 4th this year. So it's just been a great improvement from last year, and it's all thanks to our coaches, and we had just a great team, and we had a lot of fun this year, so thank you.
All right. Thank you. Congratulations.
Representing girls tennis, we have Julia Johnson and Maddie Karras.
Hello. This year we had a really good year. We were conference champs. We beat Memorial for the first time. Ever. It was amazing. We were all like really pumped, and our coach took us out for dinner. So we were like, yes, free dinner.
Okay, this was a really good year. 6 of our girls got first team all conference. 2 of them got second team all conference, and then all of us but one of our doubles teams went on to sectionals, and that was very good. So 8 out of the 10 people. And I went to state this year, so that was an accomplishment because I've never sent a junior there before. And what else? We got 3rd at sectionals, and we got 2 points better than we did last year, and we're just improving so much. And we had a great season. And we only lost 1 conference match.
All right. Congratulations, tennis team.
Next, representing volleyball, we have Rachel Sadoff and Kat Malin.
Hi. This year was a really good year. Past few years we've been building up as a volleyball program, and that's really different for Hudson because we really haven't had a good volleyball program ever since Dennis Sadoff, Rachel's dad, came as to the coaching head. So this year we tied for 2nd in the conference, which is really good, and we lost the regional finals to Eau Claire North, and 5 of our girls made all conference teams. So.
Yeah, for all conference we had Morgan Zabel and myself get first team, and Kat Malin took second team, and then Katie Deutsch and Alicia Bauer got honorable mention.
All right. Thank you. Congratulations, volleyball team.
Thank you all for coming. I knew I'd trip on this one. Thanks for all coming, and if you guys want to leave or need to leave, you may do so. Thanks.
Again, thank you all student athletes. Very impressive records. We're very proud of you as well as the coaches, so thank you again.
Okay, do I have to use that? Yeah. First of all, if you could, I enclosed a newsletter. Oh, I have a newsletter for you here. This was something new for me, something I've always wanted to do, and there's so much information, and it was one way of reaching out. Originally, it was for the coaches, and a special thank you to Tracy for helping me put this together. She thought it was a neat thing, not only for coaches, but for also the community. So we've put this on the website, and am going to open this up for everyone. That is one thing that we are trying to improve on is our communication in the athletic department. There are a number of exciting things going on, and I think this is the first time I've met you as a group. I'm sure you probably have a lot of questions, but
Steph, sorry to interrupt you. Are you moving on to your report to the board?
Yes.
Because that's a little later in the agenda.
Oh, is it?
It
Okay.
is.
Okay.
And you can, I think you can stay there, but
Okay.
if you could just hold that for a few
Okay,
minutes, because we
will do.
certainly want to hear about it.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
And Mr. President, you can probably see Sue Dahl, Director of One Act Play, did arrive. And so
Okay.
we'd like to have Sue come up, and I
okay.
think she has some of her cast members here, too. They took their One Act Play to state once again.
That'd be
Mrs.
great.
Dahl, you ready? They're going to go up.
Yep.
That's
But you want to face us. Okay.
All right. We are some of the people from the One Act Play this year. Our play is called Murder is Fun. And I know it's kind of weird, but it is about like a play like murder type. You act it out. And then we actually have people invading the fourth wall, which is like we have our cast members sitting in the audience seats, which would be one of who Darcy is. And then, so they're just like trying to figure out who the murderer is. So we kind of, all the people on stage reenact what's going on. And the audience just has a fun time. It's kind of like more funny than like serious and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. We went to state this year in lacrosse. And Kyle Featherstone got Best Actor Award. He can't be here today. He has work. So he got that. And then we also received an award for just getting to state. So it was a really fun year.
We also got nominated for like Best Director's Award, Critics' Choice, which is like Best Overall Play. And then we're also nominated for Ensemble Award. And another person got really good makeup. So he was pretty proud of himself. So.
Yeah, it was Max Melanathy. She was like, oh yeah, you did makeup really good. And he was like, thanks. I guess I know how to put on makeup really well. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun, a lot of hard work. And then, January 10th, we will be putting it on for people outside of school, the community play. So hopefully you guys can make it.
Do you have a time on the 10th? Is it a 7 o'clock? Okay. Great, thank you.
All right, thanks.
We look forward to it.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Okay, I think we can move on to Stephanie's report. So,
I'm just
fall
a little
athletics.
overexcited,
Go for it.
overanxious. As I was stating, communication is something ongoing, and there are a number of ways that we've been communicating. Building this program, you have to develop an athletic program in order to make it successful, and we're starting from the ground up here. And different ways in developing this program is, first of all, working with the coaches, getting the coaches all on the same page. And one of the ways that I did that was through meeting with each and every one of them, each and every one of the head coaches one-on-one, preseason and end of the year. So in a matter of a week, in that transition time, I met with, I think there were 15 some coaches that I met with. It's a way to express their needs and their wants, and what do we need to do in order to make a successful program. Everybody wants a state championship in their programs. What do we need to do to get there? One of those ways was communication, of course. In talking, the website are continuously updating our website. If you go to that under athletics, we have placed this newsletter on the website. We're putting the scheduling, we're doing the scheduling on the website, constantly looking at different ways we can get our athletic programs out there. I would also like to continue to pursue the live coverage with the cable company. I know that I did speak with them earlier in the year. That is not, they're still looking at that, and next year that looks like it's possibly going to be a go. There is one project that we have started that I think is key and a foundation for a successful program, and that is to enhance our strength and conditioning program. And I just think I've been in a number of programs, and the successful programs have a strong strength and conditioning. With the help of some of the current coaches, the football program is on board. We have Jerry Yucatel with the strength and conditioning, or the SAQ program, speed and agility and quickness. I have also included to you a clinic that we put on with the help of Larson Sports for the students and the coaches. The clinic, a sheet is enclosed there of what it all entails, which was a huge success for us. There were over 100 kids and close to 40 coaches that came to these two clinics. And if we can get everybody on board with that, you're going to see our athletic program raised to another level. This is not going to happen overnight. These are things that are going to take time. You have to get the coaches and the kids to believe in each other and believe in the program. So that is an exciting addition. It's been there. A concern that we have right now is space. We're working on looking at different ways that we can utilize the space that we have. And we did have Cal Dietrich was one of our guest speakers. We're having him. We're getting his input of the pros and of what we can do to utilize the, what we do have. So that was a pretty exciting addition for us. But that's, there's just bigger, faster, stronger is what our kids need right now. We need to get them the resources and the help that the coaches need to improve to get us to that next level. So that's pretty exciting. The other thing that I've done communication-wise is just for an example, is I put that the clinic in the paper. We did do in the Hudson Star-Observer. We did put a blip in that. I made a few copies of that, and made the coaches feel just how important it really is, and that their work is not getting unrecognized. There have been different ways that we are promoting sportsmanship, and these are things that are just a continuous cycle. We are putting messages in the programs, and a special thanks, Mr. Lucas has been a huge help in supporting these ideas. So I do appreciate Ed for all the help that he's given me in different ways of getting things out like this. Messages in the programs, team meals for visiting teams during football homecoming, for example. Messages are sent to students in assemblies. We've talked about sportsmanship in the assemblies to every one of the kids. Throughout the day, little blips, messages sent to the kids. Welcome signs to visiting teams, reading sportsmanship messages pregame in the events. I continue to look at message boards and locating different places we can put those, and providing hospitality for game workers. The number of thank yous and the appreciation we got for just providing food to those workers was overwhelming. Those are just a few of the different ways that we're promoting sportsmanship within the school. The different ways of doing this, it's just endless. It can just keep going. That's just an ongoing thing. The other thing that I've been working on too, that I'm implementing, and I think the coaches really bought into this year, was at the beginning of the season, you have your standard evaluation forms for coaches. And instead of just the ordinary the checkoff list that you have, I've improvised over the years of coaching. I tried to think of something what would make me a better coach? And one of those was a professional growth plan. And so I came up with something that the coaches themselves could look at, and it's just a professional growth plan that they look at each year and build from. And what it is their goals and their objectives for the upcoming year and what they can do in the future. And then we look at that at the beginning of the year, and then we look at it at the end of the year season meeting. And it's very non-threatening. It's an evaluation of themselves, and it's been very helpful in the past to me as a coach. And they really bought into that, and they like that idea. Another thing is working with the booster clubs and organizations, trying to keep an open communication, an open mind with all the organizations, finally getting a feel for what organizations are where. So I want to continue to keep that line open. And second semester, I'd like to implement a student ambassador program. And what that is just getting to know the kids. I wanted to do that first semester, but you got to get to know the kids. It's an activity student ambassador program where the kids come and they'll help me out in the office. They'll take tickets. They'll present awards at halftime of the games. Greet the officials, greet the teams. It's just a neat way of getting kids that are not involved into some kind of activity, which is in the same lines of my philosophy, is getting as many kids as you can involved, no matter what it is, in a positive way. And that's what one of our goals is as well. The other thing is looking at getting coaches advisor groups and parent advisor groups together, forming committees to look at the activity code conduct, the coach's handbook, the student handbooks. That's something that's ongoing. And looking at our facilities. Just a constant evaluation of trying to keep our facilities updated. In the commons area here shortly, you'll notice a difference. We're going to add an academic wall of pride, and our state championship pictures will be put up on the walls. That's a project in progress. Just different ways to recognize our scholar athletes. Weight room is being looked at and evaluated. Possible scoreboards for the south football fields, the two fields that we use currently for games. We have a portable scoreboard that we come out there, look at the possibility of putting something more permanent out there, and possibly revamping those two fields there on the south end of the high school near the road there. So just a constant evaluation of what we can do next. So, and at any time, if you have any questions or input, please feel free to call me. I know I've talked a little bit to a couple of you, but it's nice to see your face here. Yep.
Thanks, Stephanie. Any questions for Stephanie? Just a question regarding whether or not you've had a chance to assess what I would call the feeder system, the lower grade levels, and you talk about the communication. I would imagine the coordination of those programs is important too.
Actually, Dan, that was on my list and I skipped over it. A constant getting the high school coaches in. I've already seen us move forward on that. Getting the high school coaches to communicate with the middle school programs. They are our feeder programs and they are important. And getting the high school coaches to realize that and just to recognize them is a goal, and we will do that. Thank you.
Thanks again. Okay, we'll move on to reports, paperless board meetings. Mary?
As you know, we have spent time thinking about going paperless for our board meetings. We've met with governance and policy and reviewed various programs. Using less paper certainly is better for the environment and connects with the board's HSD 2025 goal of environmental sustainability that is a priority. It also aligns with our district technology plan in promoting the use of paperless applications throughout the district, so it models for all of us. It gives greater accessibility for board members and for administrators, accessibility that's anytime, any place, anywhere. There's less preparation, certainly, for our board secretary, Diane Radel, who is very enthusiastic about the possibility, and certainly for our duplicating staff as well, who every month provides the board packet for you and creates that. It also helps create ease for public viewing of both the board meetings, information that will be on the website after the board meeting. And the information that we're sharing can also be used for committee meetings of the board. That's something that is an extension of where we started. So we reviewed a committee of a number of administrators. Nancy was on that committee, Tim Erickson, Jared Rossing as the financial services manager. Jared was on that. Deborah Weisert, who is the human resource manager. Deborah. And Diane Radel were on that committee. Did I miss someone? And we review, Nancy Toll, of course, that's who I missed. A very important person, Sandy as well. We reviewed 4 different systems. 3 were appropriate for what we were looking for the application for the board meeting. And we're very pleased to present tonight the one system that we recommend for your consideration. It's Diligent Board Books. You have information at your places from Diligent. And thanks to all Nancy's work, she set up a demonstration, a live demonstration that we'll be able to have in just a minute so that you can actually see it in action. And the interesting thing is they used our board materials for tonight for the demonstration. So you'll see how it is with our materials. I want to make sure that we get your questions answered tonight. And our plan is for the demonstration, certainly to look at any questions that you have, and Diligent can answer those, or we can answer those depending upon what they are, in preparation for us to move forward in January with a decision of the board. Now, if you're not interested in moving forward from here, we need to know that, because we would look at the contract and have our attorney review it between now and the January board meeting. So with that being said, I think I'm going to turn it over to Nancy and get us started with Mark from Diligent, I believe.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Mark Daniels, who will be on the phone. Because of the feedback with the phone a little bit, I will be muting our microphone while he is talking so he doesn't cut in and out. So then if you have your questions at the end, we'll unmute at the end. So, Mark, can you hear me? Mark?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I can hear you, Nan.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, so thank you for your time tonight. What I'm going to do is bring you through a very brief demonstration of, first off, how to log on to Diligent Board Books, and then to show you how easy it is to really use. Just a little bit of background on the company. We've been in business since 1994. We first entered the board portal area in 2000, first catering primarily to corporations, and more recently we have been growing into the educational segment, first into universities and colleges, and more recently into school districts like yourself. So you basically, our system is very easy to use. All you need is a connection to the internet. If you can browse the internet from your home or your office, you can log on to Diligent. You don't need any applications except an Internet Explorer or a Macintosh browser or Mozilla or Firefox web browser. So you will bookmark your website. It'll probably be something such as Diligent Data Systems /Hudson, and you'll bookmark that, and you'll come to a web page like this that welcomes you. You will. There's 2 different ways to go into the site. You can either go in from a public or an untrusted computer. That ensures nothing is left behind on the computer, and that would be used if you were, let's say, at your sister-in-law's house or somebody for Thanksgiving. You would use the public or untrusted. You'll primarily use this because you'll be on your own home computer or office computer, and you'll say private computer, and you'll launch Diligent one-click. And it launches this application right here, this little tool, and because it's my own personal computer, it knows who I am, Mark Daniels. And I simply type my password. It's a very secure website. We host not only for colleges and school boards, but we do some of the country's largest defense contractors and major corporations. So, of course, it's designed to be very secure. When we log on, we just jump right into Hudson School District Board material, and we click, and it'll actually open up our board book. One thing you'll see as it opens up is it's very intuitive. In fact, it was designed to be a book-like interface so that it looks very much like the books that may be in front of you tonight at the meeting, a binder. Each book is personalized. That's my initials there, MD. So if you sit on different committees, you'll also have access to your committee documents in separate pull-downs here. For tonight, though, I'm going to go briskly and go right into the board book for Hudson School District Board. And you'll see when it opens up, it looks very much like your agenda does this evening. The agenda, the call to order, Pledge of Allegiance, approval of the agenda, approval of the past minutes. So then we went on to the staff and committee recognition. So it's a tab-separated book. Each tab is clearly named. If we want to go into any specific item, we can just simply click on that item, or alternatively, we could launch the agenda, and when the agenda opens, you'll notice there's links. So you can either go into a book from the tab level, or you can go into a book right from these things. So let's jump into this topics for action, which are coming up. And when we click on that link, it links right into a document here. You'll see this is a document in your binder for something later on this evening when you come up to tab 9. And this is about the Rivercrest enrollment growth. So this is what your documents will actually look like. You can scroll down. If you see something else that you want to go forward into, you can. There's sub-tabs. You can see this is the HSD 2025 secondary world language that'll be discussed later on. If you're viewing a PowerPoint, it really lends itself to PowerPoint because the screen shape is the shape of a PowerPoint. So we can go into slideshow mode here and actually just go through this presentation. And you can see how quick it is. It's truly a book-like interface. You don't have to wait for documents to download. You can quickly get through this. If you have a question, you can highlight something. Let's say you want to ask a question at the meeting. You can actually create notes for yourself. So whenever you want to create a note, you can create a note. This is a personal note that's only there for you. No other board member can see it. So this is a note to myself. And we would type our question, what we wanted to mention at the board meeting. Now when we hit this page, we'll always see this yellow bar here, which indicates that we have a note. Alternatively, at the front of the book, we have a place where we can view all the book notes. Sometimes the intent is to go paperless, the intent is to save the environment, but there might be times when you might want to print a section of the book. My degree is in accounting, and I shouldn't admit that I really like to print my financials. So if you ever want to print a book, you can simply say print book, and it'll bring in a section. You can print just sections of the book. It actually goes out and grabs all the tab names. So if I just want to print a certain section. In fact, let's go down to that topics for discussion area again, and you'll notice that I can expand that out. Let's go back up to this one here. Here's the big one. So you can see here topics for, so if I just want to print a subtab, I can just print a subtab, or I can print the whole tab. So very intuitive, designed to be very easy for you, right down to the print dialog box. Let's see, going forward a little bit more, just really easy to navigate. As I said, whether you're going in from the agenda or going in to a document from a tab name, we can shoot right into tab names in that manner too. Also, Zoom feature for those of you like me that have to wear reading glasses these days. If you ever have trouble reading something that's been put in, you have a nice Zoom feature as well. You also have the ability to have your archive books. So now all your archives will be keyword searchable. And in fact, you'll notice down here there's a keyword search feature. And if, let's say we want to just search when did we talk about the Rivercrest enrollment last. We can search all the books for Rivercrest enrollment. And when we do a search here, it's going to go through all the books, and it's going to find every occurrence of that. And here, sure enough, we have some different documents. Here's a document that we had on the screen just a few moments ago. So the keyword search is very powerful because you can search all your documents, and it's an advanced search. So perhaps I, only want it if it says Rivercrest enrollment and another word from here, guidelines. So very powerful search. You can also do a date range. So that should help you find things from past minutes or past board meetings that you want to research. You also have a board calendar. So here the board meetings will be posted, and they'll also put a little link when the book will be available for you to view. Also, you'll be able to download this calendar to Outlook as well. So if you use Outlook as your primary calendar option on your computer, you'll be able to also synchronize this calendar for the next year forward to Outlook. Behind each item, there's also additional information which will tell you when the meeting's going to start and certain information like that. You also have a Rolodex. So here will be a Rolodex and also all the other, and this will say all the other school district contacts in your implementation, but this is where, your superintendent's name will be, or Nancy's, whatever other members that you need to contact of the school district. Finally, there's the Resource Center. This is a great area where other information will be posted. It might be policies and procedures, maybe the board bylaws, maybe additional director bios or educator bios, links to other websites, recent press releases. So the Resource Center is also a very powerful area. I was asked to do this in about 15 minutes, so I went through it very quickly. There's other features where if they want you to focus in on something, you can have pop-ups so that if the superintendent really wants you to focus in on something prior to a meeting, they can actually have a pop-up. Normally you don't like pop-ups on the internet, but this pop-up actually alerts you that something really needs your attention, or there's going to be a special document that you have to review, or something they really want you to focus on. So the pop-up is a nice feature that's there as well. I think, Nancy, unless you feel I've missed anything, I think we should probably now open it up for some questions. I went through it fairly quickly, but I have touched on all the main features and really how easy it is to actually navigate through the system.
Okay, I'll take us off mute and relay questions if you can't hear.
Do we have any questions regarding Cindy?
I do. Two questions. First, what happens to our notes when at some point the book for this meeting is archived?
Mark, were you able to hear that okay? Or?
No, you'll have to repeat questions, Nancy.
Okay, she wanted to know what happens to the notes, their personal notes after the meeting.
That's great. When a book goes to archive, notes are not maintained. So it would be important for you as a board member, if you wanted to keep your notes after the board meeting, that you would print them, and you could keep them if you wanted to by hitting this print button. But about a week after the meeting, your board administrator will actually archive the book, and at that point in time, all your personal notes are no longer maintained. That's a great question.
And then the second question was about the Resource Center. Is that searchable as well?
Mark, is the Resource Center searchable also?
Yes. When you do the keyword search, you can search just the Resource Center or this book. We're going to search just the Resource Center, and I think there was a press release in the Resource Center about fall sports. So with any luck, if my memory served me right, sure enough, it found a document called Fall Sports in the Resource Center, and here's your Fall Sports Update agenda, or your Fall Sports Update that we posted in the Resource Center. That's actually Hudson School District Real News.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Mark?
I just have to ask you, Nancy, and you send it to Mark, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand this.
I can't hear you very well, though, so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can't even figure out my part of the technology.
Also, I don't know if you're speaking right now, Nancy, but I did forget to point out that there's toll-free support. It's available 24 hours a day. Let's say you forgot your password or your username or whatever it might be. We have offices around the globe, and we answer that phone with our employees 24 hours a day.
Okay, I think there's another question here.
Yeah, when I first saw this feature about being able to add notes, that was very exciting because I scribble all over mine, making notes to myself. So I want to make sure I understand Cindy's question and Mark's answer. If we put notes in the board book, they go away after 7 days following the meeting. Am I understanding that correctly?
Mark, they just want to make sure the notes, the personal notes that are put in there, it's not necessarily 7 days they go away. It would be whenever the administrator archives the book.
Whenever the administrator archives the book.
Okay. What if I want to save some of my personal notes?
Was there a follow-up in there?
Yeah, what if he wants to save some of those notes? Then you would print those?
Prior to the administrator archive the book, you would want to print the notes right here. So you could either print them or export them. Do you see that on the screen there?
No, I got paper here.
You can export it to a Word document.
So you could export to a file without printing them?
That's correct. Export them to your own personal hard drive if you wanted to.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess that's okay. I'm rather technologically challenged. I'm just trying to figure out, a lot of times I'll make notes on things I want to remember, questions I want to ask.
Did we answer that question, or are there more questions?
No, sorry, here, he's following up. Just a second.
And so, for me, I would like to be able to keep some of that handy so I could have it in front of me. If they're going to be off in a different location, that might not be the best arrangement for myself. Is there a way to somehow keep the stuff close on this Diligent Board Book program so that I could have my notes to access?
So you want notes? During the meeting, your notes will be there.
Yeah.
At the meeting, but if you want to come to the meeting, you can also print a page that has all your notes with it, with what it refers to for the meeting. You can print that out and bring it to the meeting also. I think the problem might be, though, there might be a problem with saving notes as what becomes a record, or I don't know. Nancy, there isn't. Okay, I don't know.
Says no.
Nancy, do we
Yes, from a
have
legal
to archive?
perspective, most board members do not want their notes to be discoverable later on. That's just from a legal background. That typically your own personal counsel or outside counsel would recommend, not to maintain your notes. And that's maybe more true of a public corporation board, so the system is designed not to keep those notes.
Nancy, a question just to follow up on that. If Mark is wanting to maintain those notes, could he not just, especially if he's using his own laptop, wouldn't he be able to, for example, just copy them or export them over into a Word file or do something like that?
Yeah, down where he was showing you, I think, Mark, right, you can hit that export and it would export to his own computer as a Word document or a PDF or...
Yes, it actually exports it as a text file, I believe. We could actually do it real quickly right now. I've never done it myself, so we can export all notes, and let's see what it does, because I've never done it. So, but I believe it exports it to a text file is what it does. Yep, see, so it exports it to a PDF file, actually, see?
So you could save it to your own computer.
Yeah, but save as a type.
Okay.
What other types
Thank
are
you.
there?
Thank you.
Any other questions for?
Yes, under that save as
Cindy?
type, what other types are there under there?
Mark, what other types are there other than PDF? Is there, whoops, I see you just went by that. In that export option, were there any other options other than a PDF?
I don't think so. It only exports it as a PDF. And that's your note that it's exporting. Let me just look to see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it defaults to PDF, so I know it's going to at least be able to export it as a PDF, which is a pretty common format type.
Brian?
So from a pricing standpoint, this 23,865, is that for all the board members? Or how is the pricing working?
The price includes all of the board members and directors, Nancy Toll, Diane Radel, and a backup to Diane.
So there's no, and that's basically a subscription fee, so that's a 3-year subscription?
Correct. I guess.
And then, so years, so that's the ongoing then cost, and the years 4, 5, and 6. So we just have a yearly subscription.
Yes.
Unless we work out some other situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have any way of knowing how this is counterbalanced by what we'd be saving in administrative time handling our paperwork now?
Well, time depends upon how we put the board book together and how many changes we make and so forth. But certainly, Diane anticipates that there will be a savings in her time. Certainly, it will be accessible to directors and a savings in our time because we have to send emails to each other with various components of the board book. So there'll be savings there. And then certainly in our duplicating department, all time will be saved there. We'll just... at least right now, we're thinking of planning on printing the agenda for those people that are attending our meetings.
Is there a limit to the amount of storage? I mean, is it an unlimited amount of board books and everything we can store, or is there an additional fee for?
Mark, is the storage unlimited for with that subscription price?
Yes, the storage is unlimited.
Okay.
I think Lynn had some.
Brian?
I'm done.
I just want to, one of the questions that the Governance and Policy Committee had at their meeting was they wanted a 60-day right to terminate the contract, and actually Diligent offered us a 90-day right to terminate the first 90 days in the first 90 days.
Any other questions, board members?
I have a question, Mr. President. Do you anticipate having any integration to BlackBerry or email? If one of the notes that they were talking about, like if the superintendent had a note or something that was urgent, do you anticipate having the technology to integrate that to those types of PDA devices or email?
Were you able to hear that, Mark?
No, I didn't hear that.
She asked us if there's any plans for future integration with email. Now, I know there is an email component actually, but we were kind of staying away from that, again, because of records and
Okay.
board members not being able to communicate with each other, you know,
The Public Information Act, and we're very well versed in the Public Information Acts. Universities, colleges, and school boards, which are public, are not really supposed to encourage a dialogue between the directors prior to the open session of the board meeting. We do have an email functionality built into the system, but that feature most likely will be turned off to talk to each back and forth to board members, but it will be there as a tool to facilitate communication if you have questions to the superintendent. And this was just from some initial discussions we had. So we haven't done the final implementation meeting until the board actually plans it, but we did have some discussions to provide you the ability to email other people within the district. So a board member could reach out to Nancy and email her a question, and her email address would default, you know, obviously right here. There'd be a distribution list once you click on that to go to the appropriate person. I also thought I might have heard BlackBerry. We do have a BlackBerry interface. Not that these types of documents lend themselves to reading on a small BlackBerry, but in a pinch or in an emergency, it certainly, amazingly and surprisingly, is very doable. And we do have a BlackBerry interface, which is we provide at no additional charge if there's somebody that would want that.
Is that what you were kind of looking for there, that BlackBerry interface?
Yeah, I think I was more asking about the alerts specifically than reviewing a board pack. You know, if there's something that needs immediate attention, that's more where I thought it would be appropriate, I guess. And then I had another question on licensure. If there's a turnover in a board member, if we have a 3-year agreement, would that include, are we buying the license or is it person specific to the board member?
We're buying the number of slots in the license. So yes, it's not specific to a board member.
Seat specific, not person specific.
Correct.
Yeah, Diane, after an election or whatever, Diane would be able to go in and change the board members, right, Mark, as far as names and that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Nancy, is there a need for, or is included in the fee, any support from Diligent? Meaning, you know, within the 3 years, if we have any issues, we can...
Yeah, there's training, and then Mark, do you want to talk a little bit about, there's training for administrators, for Diane, for board members, but there's also the 24/7 support. Mark, do you want to mention anything about that?
Well, there's 2 levels of training. We'll actually come on site and train Diane. We also will train each of the directors one-on-one. We can either do that in a web-based session, very similar to how we're communicating this evening. We can do a web-based training session. Very common, though, I tell you, most people, if they can surf the internet, it's such an easy, intuitive tool, so that you know, the training for somebody at a board member level is pretty straightforward. You know, it's all point and click. There's nothing you can break. You know, to go from page to page, you simply either navigate with these navigational tools here, or I can simply hit the enter key. So it's just so, you know, we also have this navigation here. You can navigate by tab. You know, there's just so many different ways. And you can see how easy it is. It's just point and click. So the training, but we will train you each one-on-one. But we will spend a whole day on site with the administrator, with the person who puts the books together. So
There's also access 24/7 if you're having difficulty any place as a board member or as director, superintendent, staff, to get support as well, Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, 97% of all the calls that come in from directors are not how to use the system. They are, I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. I can't remember my password. So the system itself does not need a lot of support at the director level. The support calls that we get from directors are typically forgotten passwords, username problems, caps lock turned on, or having trouble connecting to the internet.
Okay, so that's me. So are you going to be able to tell me my password when I call?
Well, there's some questions that they would ask you.
Yeah.
To give you to reset the password.
Okay.
So, but there's an ability to reset it and send you an email with a link that goes to that provides you a set of questions that you have to answer to get that new password turned on. So.
And when I call the helpline, what continent physically is that person who answers? Where are they located?
Can you hear that, Mark?
Where the people located? I love answering this question. If you were to call right now, you would get somebody in Christchurch, New Zealand. It's already tomorrow morning there. You'd get either Chris Davies or I forget the other Chris's last name. We have two Chris's in New Zealand who answer the phone. If you were to call in the middle of the night, you would get Simon Small in our London office or Regan McMillan in our London office. And if you were to call during the day, you would get any one of a dozen people that staff those phone lines during the day, all answered by our employees, all answered by people that speak the Queen's English.
Thank you.
If there's more.
She thanked you for that. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll. This was a report for the board. I'm sensing, or is the board favorable about?
I didn't hear that.
Looking into this further.
I'm favorable
Mark,
to this.
they're discussing it just a second.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I would imagine that, Nancy, if we have any additional questions, that we can go to you or Mary and between now and the next time this issue comes up before the board.
Sure.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Very exciting.
Thanks, Nancy, for making it possible for us to do this. I know you spent a lot of time to make sure that it worked.
I think that's it, Mark.
Okay. We'll move on to Superintendent's report. New Director of Student Services. Mary?
I'm very pleased this evening to recommend Corey McIntyre to follow Barb's leadership path as Director of Student Services. Certainly, we've been very thankful for Barb's leadership. As you know, she resigned at the end of last school year, and we've been very fortunate to have her agree to move forward this year in the position and continue to provide leadership. And Corey will be looking to continue the initiatives that Barb has started and to continue our programs in student services. So, Barb, we certainly thank you for everything you've done to continue to develop our program. Corey McIntyre is presently the Director of Student Support Services in the Rochester Public Schools. He has also been a psychologist and assistant director and coordinator of special education. He's worked in Minnesota, Washington State, and come back to Minnesota as well. He has chaired the Minnesota Administrators of Special Education Region 10 directors, and he is a leader that we are very pleased with. When he came to the district, each person that met him, and that included certainly directors, myself, psychologists, support staff, everyone felt that Corey was the next leader that should be in this role. He was described by people who have worked with him as building confidence and trust with his team. He had strong people skills that we saw demonstrated. He's a strategic thinker that certainly is something that we're looking forward to, adding more of that dimension to our team. Supports a continuous improvement model, and one of his last supervisor said he's the best I've ever seen. So we recommend Corey. We believe he will bring the leadership expertise, experience that we need. His own vision is aligned to our strategic plan, HSD 2025. He's very excited about the development opportunities with that plan and being part of that to serve all of our students and help them learn. And so later on this evening, you'll be asked to support his contract during our personnel consent item. So we're looking forward to Corey joining us on July 1 after your approval.
Okay, thanks, Mary. You want to go on to the Board of Education election, April 7th?
I do. As you know, it's time again for another election to the Board of Education seat. There are 3 seats that are up for election, Brian Bell's seat, Tom Holland's seat, and Bar Van Loonen's seat. These are 3-year terms, and papers are available through my office. They're also on our website. Incumbents need to give notice of their non-candidacy by December 26th, and the deadline for filing declaration of candidacy for all other candidates is January 6th.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to topics for action. Nancy Sweet is going to talk to us about the boundary adjustment option, EP Rock and Rivercrest. Nancy?
Okay. We're looking to the board for action for endorsement of the process to determine a multi-year boundary adjustment for EP Rock, between EP Rock and Rivercrest, in order to relieve and to manage the enrollment growth in the Rivercrest attendance area. At a previous board meeting, you did hear about the Rivercrest, that Rivercrest Elementary School enrollment currently exceeds what we had projected it to be, and some of the major contributing factors toward that were kindergarten registrations, more than 30 students beyond what we had anticipated. And in addition to that, there's been considerable marketing and development of associated with the new school that has drawn new residents into its attendance area. Also, relative to the process, the EP Rock Elementary School attendance boundaries are adjacent to the Rivercrest attendance boundaries, making those boundaries the most logical boundaries in the school district to consider for adjustment. EP Rock also has classroom space and also enrollment space within the classrooms. And we do feel that it's important that we maximize the use of our existing facilities. The process in your board book identifies criteria and guidelines similar to the larger project that we undertook last year to adjust, to actually redraw all of our boundaries. And that includes the consideration of our class size guidelines. It includes considering our individual building space and the enrollment capacities that are relative to the specific facilities. We also would be using a similar formula to distribute new growth among the schools, and of course we need to follow law and policy on student transportation. We would take a look at, and to the extent that we could, we'd balance population characteristics, and of course we would consider the cost efficiencies of an option that we would bring to you later. Our timeline, the Governance and Policy Committee provided input for the process mid-November. The following day, myself and Tracy Habish-Shaleen, our communication specialist, and one of the principals, Amy Homburg, met with parent representatives from both Rivercrest and EP Rock to make them aware of the need and also to get their perspectives and some of their suggestions. Many of their suggestions went beyond the scope of the current work, but nevertheless were valuable and might have application later as our district continues to grow. Tonight, we're asking that you adopt the process, and we've begun our work already. We'll continue it through February, communicating with affected parties and identifying an option that would align with these guidelines and criteria. Around January 5th, we would meet with the parent representatives again from the 2 affected schools. We would also, around that time, we'd publish for the rest of the community our proposed option, so people could take a look at it. At the January 13th meeting, the process proposes that you discuss the recommended option, and that prior to that you entertain a listening session with members of the public regarding the interested parents affected regarding the proposed option. Either 5:30 to 6:20 p.m. We typically begin these meetings at 6:30, or depending on your personal schedules, 6:30 to 7:20, beginning this meeting at 7:30. But a listening session where you could hear from parents and others. After that meeting, then, we would meet again with the parent representatives from Rivercrest and EP Rock. And then on February 10th, we would ask you for action on the recommended option. This is a shorter timeline, obviously, than we utilized in the previous bigger project, but it does have staffing implications, so we would need to make a decision somewhere around that mid-February timeline. And then, of course, we would continue our commitment to communicating with prospective parents, with realtors, developers, and the public about the attendance boundaries and the procedures for enrollment. So,
anything else?
Okay, question?
Okay.
No, that's it.
Any questions for Nancy? Brian?
Go ahead, sir.
Just a couple. Number of students. How many students do we think are affected by this, or I mean, how many are we trying? What's the number of students we're trying to move?
Don't know yet. Don't know yet. We do know that we are. The enrollment of this particular building concerns us, and we see indicators of continued growth. Yeah. We know that we have some capacity at Rock, and those 2 points of data will help us make that determination. But I can't.
Is it 10? Is it 100? Is it?
Oh, it's more than 10. It'd be more than 10, certainly.
Less than 100, or? You don't know. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
So the second question is...
It has to be sufficient, though. The numbers need to be sufficient to relieve and manage the growth here, and the number cannot be too many to shift the problem to Rock as well.
Yep. So the second question is the last process. I think it was a very comprehensive plan. Mm-hmm. You personally spent a lot of time on it. A lot of people did.
A lot of people did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and we still have this challenge. So I'm just trying to, what did we learn from that? So as we go into the next one, that we're a little bit more comfortable that, which this doesn't surprise me that we have to do this. I mean, it was a pretty dynamic situation. Mm-hmm. But are we feeling like we have the right information and experience so that we have we feel pretty confident that this time we can. Make sure that...
Well, actually, I feel comfortable with the information we had previously. We still do not have a preschool census. Most school districts don't. If they do, it's usually not accurate. So that was the preschool. The anticipated kindergarten enrollments for all of the other sites were very close to what we had projected, short of really having a census. I don't know how we could, overcome that particular lack of data. What we've learned is that we're going to need, I think, to make adjustments continually as we go along, and we'll try to minimize, to every extent possible, the impact on the movement of families and children. And we're going to consider that in this process as well, in terms of those that are currently in place, and try to minimize another transition for them. But I don't think we should be surprised ever with the continuing growth in this district to periodically need to entertain, for sure, short-term resolutions and then some longer-term resolutions. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and we would do everything we possibly could to not be engaging in this process over and over again.
But I think, Brian, you hit it on the head. It's a dynamic situation, the situation we have been in the district, and the elementary growth. And we expected more growth at Rivercrest, certainly also at Hudson Prairie and at Rock as well. But we've had more here because of the school certainly attracts families to the area, and there are factors we can't control. So we know that this attendance area and the potential for further development in this area is very dynamic. So any boundaries could be a 2-year plan and maybe need to be changed after that.
Mark?
Yes, thanks, Dan. One concern I had, Nancy, was the proposal for a option, I guess, to be presented. Any reason why we couldn't have more than one option presented, with the administration certainly recommending one? But speaking for myself, it might be helpful to see 2 or 3 ways of fixing this, and then we can talk and debate about that. Sometimes I think when we focus on just one particular solution, then we all kind of get bought into that.
It's interesting, what you're proposing here, and we'll certainly think about that and possibly do that. But at the board table, perhaps that could be entertained. There have been situations in other communities where they propose to change boundaries, and they put up maps, A, B, C, D, E, and what we've learned through this previous process, it's a very personal thing. It's a very personal thing, and you need to kind of you have to have kind of the administrative capacity, and then of course the board decision capacity to rise above those very personal, very individual considerations that people have, and just look at it in its totality for the good of the district. So I would be hesitant to lay out all kinds of options that people could weigh in on. And I think you expect from us a certain level of know-how to make certain determinations to narrow it down for you.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I understand, and I appreciate that. Yeah. And certainly, yes, I wouldn't want a brainstorming of a dozen ideas. But I guess let me just close by saying this: if there are perhaps a couple of viable alternatives, I guess maybe I would like to at least see that. If there is an A, B, and C that would potentially work, each having maybe its advantages and disadvantages, then myself, I would maybe like to see that come forward. If that isn't the case, then I understand. If clearly there's one particular option that is the best, so be it. But if not,
I think it's valuable what Mark is asking for, in terms of, you do this work and you do your due diligence on all of the options. And obviously, some of them are just not workable. And then there are some that you consider and you find are not the best option. And I think it's good for us as a board to hear about those and what was not good about those options, because I think we need to be able to have a full understanding of the scope of of what you've actually looked at and what you've learned. It educates us. It makes us better decision makers, in the end, and it makes it us. You could probably, there are just a lot of reasons why it's good for us to hear that. So, I guess I'm just supporting what Mark says. I guess I would like to see, and certainly not a comprehensive, every dot, but I'd like to see a kind of a survey of what those options are that you consider and why some are not as viable as others.
We certainly need direction from the board if that's the direction you want to go. It would be our recommendation to you to come forward with a recommendation, one recommendation. It's certainly clearer to parents and easier for them to respond to. With that, Cindy, we could easily say these are things we considered and these are why we didn't. But if you want us to come with multiple recommendations, that will create more concern by a larger group of people. And we probably, to do justice to that, really need to set a meeting just for that. To have time to hear those people, because we expect there would be more. And also to consider and talk through the options, because the options become pretty complex, as you talked about. And so the board really would need the time to devote to that. So that has not been our recommendation, just because, we've gone through this, and Nancy did a great job last time. And you had experience with how many people came forward with one recommendation.
And there's no point in us having a listening session if we're only going to consider the one option that's brought forward and not have any information about all of the other things that people have recommended. It's a waste of people's time to suggest they can come here and talk to us and that we'll consider the things that they say when we're really only being offered the alternative, the one choice that you bring to us. So I guess I feel like I really do need at least to be presented with the options that you examine and why they're not viable. I think that's the minimum amount that we need, and that's the reason why.
I think we can do that, but that still comes forward with one recommendation with some other things we've considered and why we're not recommending them.
Yes.
Okay.
That's okay.
Mr. President, I can make one comment on that.
Okay, right.
I think that's a great comment, Cindy. In the last listening session, we actually made a change based off of some feedback. So, there is... I would hope that the community, if they feel strongly about something, they would let us know, and then we can make the appropriate decisions.
Yeah, but I want it to be meaningful for them. I want it to be not an exercise in futility.
Which it wasn't last time.
No, it surely wasn't. So, and I wouldn't want it to be this time.
I think that's a fair point, Cindy. I guess I would also throw my 2 cents worth in here that even though I think EP Rock is a logical school, in terms of the boundaries, I question whether or not that is solely a good strategy for us in potentially passing the burden of one school onto another without potentially looking at all the potential movement that we might be able to do with students in certain parts of the district other than Rock. So I guess I would just ask that maybe we look at some other schools as part of the mix and consider those schools potentially absorbing some of those students as well.
Yeah, we're continuing, my office is continuing to monitor the enrollment and the growth in all the other schools. With the exception of Rock and and Rivercrest. All the other schools are pretty much as we thought they would be. And of course, we're maintaining room in those schools for growth, subject to future development. But we always look at the whole district. I mean, if there's something that obviously that emerges that could cause us to look at more than one boundary, we would. It's a really, really, really big project. You move one, and the whole district moves around.
It's not an easy process.
It's
I realize
not.
that.
No, it's not. But I understand what you're saying. You want us to really look at the whole picture continuously.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
I just want to, I'm thinking of parents who might be listening who are thinking, you're over at Hudson Prairie or your boundaries are going to change. Yeah. Our focus really is going to be on EP Rock and Rivercrest. It makes the most sense at the present time. And Nancy hasn't seen anything really to suggest to move to the other schools. But again, we'll look at it because then we would have to notice those parents as well.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay.
Just real quickly, Dan, but just no problem. Just a minor note here. I guess with regard to the listening sessions, it would seem to me that perhaps the later one would be better for most people to maybe make attendance. I mean, the idea is we want to encourage people to come, and I'm just thinking that 5:30 might be a little early. It seems that the later one might encourage more participation. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good. I guess we have to have a motion?
Yes.
Okay. We have
that was an action.
Motion to follow this process.
I move to approve the process that has been identified in our board book.
Okay, we have a motion by Cindy.
Second.
Second by Lynn. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's approved. Topics for action. Item B, appoint deputy clerk for spring election.
At this time of year, we annually appoint a deputy clerk to work with Diane to make sure we follow through with all the details in the spring election. So I recommend to you that, again, Financial Services Director Tim Erickson serve in that role as deputy clerk.
Yeah.
Okay, Tim, you're willing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I move that we appoint Tim as the clerk.
We have a motion by Cindy, a second by Brian. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's approved. We'll move on to the Education Convention coming up towards the end of January. This is the state WASB convention in Milwaukee. With that, we need to appoint a delegate and an alternate. First of all, who will be attending? I know, Brian, you're coming down for part of it.
Yeah, for one day for the presentation with Mary.
Okay. And Cindy, will you be there?
If I attended, it would only be for the one day. I have to be back
Okay.
on Thursday night, so I was not planning to attend.
I'm attending, Mr. President.
Okay. And Barb is going to be there the full time? Okay. Would you consider a nomination for?
Sure.
Okay. Well, and then Barb, has she indicated if she's willing to serve as an alternate,
I have
Okay.
So do I move that we nominate Lynn as the delegate and Barb as the alternate?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Cindy, a second by Brian. Any further discussion? Let me just make a footnote regarding the resolutions. If you haven't received those, you'll be getting those shortly, and I'd ask board members to review those resolutions. I guess you have them.
One thing, though, is
these
that
are-
in the past, we have tried to have a discussion of them and give feedback to the delegate beforehand, and in the last couple of years, we have sort of missed the boat on that, so I
Correct.
guess I'd like to suggest
Yep.
that we plan some time for that.
Exactly. That was what I was going to propose, Cindy. So if everyone could review those resolutions at the January board meeting, we will go over them and try to give our delegates some direction in terms of our feedback and input, comments on those resolutions. So that said, we have a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's approved. Okay, we'll go on to HSD 2025, implementation of the world language. Sandy.
You do have the PowerPoint in your board packet and/or it's on the screen behind you as well. This is one of our efforts this evening to really kind of kickstart HSD 2025. Those of us in the room do recognize that the strategic plan was adopted last May and that you set in September 2 priority graduate learner outcomes, one being global literacy and the other environmental sustainability. This is driving forward now one piece of the global literacy graduate learner outcome. I'd like to give us some history regarding kind of how we got here. Last month when I brought the new course proposals, we had a little blurb that just said I'd be coming back in December with possibly a language option for the high school. You'll see with the title that it says secondary world language. It's kind of evolved in the last month as we've had meetings and have had dialogue with administration and teachers. So to give ourselves a little history, again, we're looking at the global literacy graduate learner outcome where we want students to understand how world cultures and global issues connect to their lives, and students will communicate in more than one language. And one of the key areas, again, is world languages K through 12, and that's what we're addressing this evening. If we look at process and kind of go back in time and come forward to where we are this evening, from the moment Mary stepped into her role, she heard from several board members and or community members the desire to get another world language and to start world language at the elementary. She felt that that was just a high priority of our community. And she recognized that the timing needed to be right, that we just couldn't start that piece out. So we needed to wait until we had that strategic plan in place. We also, if we look at past history, have students who have been very interested in additional languages beyond Spanish and German, and they've participated in programs such as Youth Options. I believe this semester we currently have 3 students who are taking French at UWRF, looking for options beyond what we offer at our high school. I know last year we also had a student who brought in credit from Concordia Language Villages. I believe it was Japanese. So we do have students looking for other languages beyond, again, what we offer in our high school program. As it states, the consideration of offering more languages was delayed due to the anticipation of our strategic plan. And that process began in February 2007, and as I mentioned, it was adopted in May 2008. And in there, we have a graduate learner outcome on global literacy. And again, the board made that a priority in September 2008. Again, stressing, you recognize this as well, due to that interest that we heard from parents and community, students and staff during the gathering of feedback on the strategic plan. When we started this fall, then working with the Global Literacy Graduate Learner Outcome, I started a K-12 World Language Committee. And our assumption as administrators and as that committee was that we were really focused on elementary language, starting an elementary program. And that's where we started. We thought by February we were supposed to have a plan to the administration on how we were going to start an elementary program. We began doing research in September by looking at other districts throughout the state who are offering languages, as well as in Minnesota, especially in the Twin City area. And the K-12 committee continued that research throughout October, and we have a variety of models that we're currently considering. At that time, we also then looked at the budget. Tim had some of the first news then regarding budget, what we were anticipating next fall with the state. And the administration had some dialogue then on just budget implications of starting an elementary program. When you have 6 elementary schools, even if you phase in a world language program, you're looking at perhaps needing 2 to 3 teachers in order to phase that in very quickly. So as a result, when we brought the proposal to the Program and Development Board Committee, and every other month I bring to them an update of where we are with global literacy, where we are with environmental sustainability. So at the October meeting, we discussed where the global literacy piece was at, the world language, and we made a decision that night to pull back on elementary until 2010, and then to flip and drive forward a third language. At that time, it was at the high school. And I can recognize I've got 3 bullets, but only the word 2 there. So there are 3 factors that we felt really hindered implementing elementary in 2009-10. One was the readiness to implement. When we started our research and looking at all the models that are out there, it's a little more complicated than I first anticipated. There are a variety of ways we can implement an elementary world language program, as well as a variety of languages. Then the cost factor, which I just mentioned, of needing 2 to 3 additional staff members in order to put that forward. And then the recognition of the fact that we are currently still in a major reading, writing, spelling initiative, year 3 of what's probably at least a 4-year plan with the professional learning, and was the timing what we needed as far as starting a new program. So last month, the recommendation was shared then with the school board to consider a world language at the high school level. When I met back with the K-12 World Language Committee, they helped develop the criteria for determining what that third language should be based on. And then we did gain feedback from 2 teacher committees, both at World Language, and then I have been meeting now with the secondary World Language teachers and also getting feedback from them. You recognize tonight in your correspondence that there is some concern. A lot of it is dealing with the speed. You can see at that first bullet, we were under the assumption until October we were looking at elementary, and all of a sudden the table kind of turned on us. And so some of the speed of this driving forward is a concern to our staff. This isn't traditionally how new courses come forward from past history. There's also concern about space at the high school, which you hear quite often about space. Ideally, we would like not to negatively impact any teacher, world language or otherwise. We want teachers to have that prep time in their room whenever possible. We won't know until students register at the end of January, first part of February, how many sections we're looking at as far as level 1. But dependent on that, obviously then Mr. Lucas and his staff will need to look at space of the entire building based on student interest of courses, not just language, but all courses. And then finally, an adjustment was made based on the feedback to begin the language at both the middle school and high school. So you'll see tonight that it's not just a high school proposal. We are looking at starting it as well in 7th grade, where we currently have exploratory Spanish, exploratory German. This year we brought in exploratory sign language to help with the numbers of kids. Now it would become exploratory Spanish, German, and then our third language. Currently at the high school, we offer Spanish and German, levels 1 through 4, and also advanced placement in both of those languages. And then currently at our middle school, we have 7th grade exploratory, and then as an 8th grade elective, we offer Spanish and German level 1, equal to what's offered at the high school. And students do have the option, they have a form they need to complete, but they do have the option in 8th grade of taking level 1 as a high school credit. Our recommendation this evening is to begin Mandarin Chinese as our third language in both the middle school and high school, and it's based on the following criteria points. A different language family came to the top when the K-12 World Language Committee met. Spanish is considered a romantic language, German a Germanic, and we were looking for something different, a different language family. Based on some of the data that you see there, Chinese is spoken by 882 million people, partly because of the size of the country, right? Making it the world's most widely used language. And then you can see in the United States, our Asian population is expected to grow. And then at the federal level, there is also 4 languages that have been named critical languages by the federal government, and those are Chinese, Arabic, Japanese, and Korean. And they feel it is important for us to get more students knowledgeable about those languages and those cultures, both for economic opportunity and national security. And then just a simple fact, along with many other factors with second languages, job opportunities increase with second language backgrounds and studies. And the more I talk to parents like myself who have kids in college, there is really a push at that college level for really thinking outside the box, outside of traditional languages, to prepare those kids for job opportunities. We heard some things tonight just with the gentleman with your diligent board book. Just think of how his company is global. And that's what we're seeing all over in any kind of business currently. The next criteria became support, and we were really looking at support from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction specifically. It is very important when we start and we have one FTE of one subject area that we have opportunities for that person to network and feel supported by others within the state. And you can see it's quite a lengthy title, but the State Department does have something called the Mandarin Chinese Critical Language Fellows Project. This is a state initiative to increase the number of teachers within the state who teach Mandarin Chinese. You may recall a couple years ago we did pursue a grant and received a grant. We were looking at starting again exploratory programs at the elementary, but we do still have grant money available to us to help with the hiring of a teacher, the salary of that teacher. And then again, another criteria point was availability of qualified staff. We didn't want to pick a language, select a language where there's limited numbers out there. And again, what is happening within the state of Wisconsin should be an asset for us, hopefully. They have trained now 18 fellows beginning in 2007 and have added 8 new trainees in 2008. And what they've done is they've taken native Chinese speakers. They have currently a BA level degree, and now they put them through training at both the Concordia language villages and then back in Madison. And at the result of their training over 2 years, they just about have their teaching license for the state of Wisconsin. So that's their effort to make sure that there are qualified teachers within the state. The woman who heads up the world languages at DPI is just simply waiting. She'll do everything she can to help us access one of those fellows for Hudson. Currently, they are all working Wausau East. And so it's just a matter of promoting Hudson and touting why they should come over to Hudson. One of the benefits then, too, is DPI will facilitate that communication between our district and that teacher. And they also then, over the next few years, will provide program development and instructional support, which I feel is just key, again, for this person to be successful. So what we will do the next few months in planning as we move forward, we want to make sure, one, could add a bullet here, that we continue to work with the secondary world language department, that we sit down again with the principals and the teachers and continue to have that dialogue, looking at their issues and addressing those concerns as we move forward. We also then will work with HR to recruit and hire the teacher, sit down with our counselors so that they're ready for not just Mandarin Chinese, but all the new courses, so that they can make sure that when they go into those classrooms, they can tout all of our new courses. And then as well as make sure that we communicate to our parents and students so they recognize some of those new opportunities. I'm not going to just mention, remember we did Project Lead the Way last time, the APUS government, and so we want to make sure that those are also known by all our parents and students. Then we register students around the end of January, first part of February. We want to continue networking and making connections with other districts that do offer Mandarin Chinese. That will be important for our new staff member. Network with DPI, a continuous piece that we want to keep in place. And then once the numbers are there, the high school administration will need to look and determine a plan for space. Then we'll look at developing curriculum and identifying and ordering instructional resources. So those will be pieces. Once we know who is on board, we can start that process. I'm going to assume, too, that networking with DPI, we can find out from other programs within the state what kind of textbooks they use, other instructional resources, and that should give us a little heads up on what we can do. So our 3 to 5 year plan is this first year, 2009-10, that we employ a qualified full-time teacher, that we offer then level 1 Mandarin Chinese at the high school, Seventh grade exploratory, it's one of the options with the seventh grade exploratory at the middle school. And then we also examine connections with other courses as well as perhaps the elementary, meaning depending on how many sections are made, we do have an Euro-Asian literature course, we have a global issues course, we have, I forget the other one at the high school, I'm going to just say Euro-Asian in history, it's not along those lines. But can that teacher also assist and provide some of that cultural piece to those other courses and make those connections and or assist with some opportunities at our elementary? Then at the second year, then the last piece there too is bring that literacy plan, the whole literacy plan, to the school board in July. And then obviously we'd evaluate those new courses and make adjustments for the following year. Our second year then in 2010-11 is when we anticipate the start of our elementary world language program. We would add 8th grade level 1 and then level 2 at the high school. And then we also want to recognize that there are students who might want to pursue other languages, and what can we do beyond a traditional adding a third, fourth, fifth language. And there are some opportunities again online. You know, we've talked about expanding our online program as well, and this is one of the ways we can do that. The DDO that we currently use as one of our vendors does have Japanese, does have Latin, does have French, so we could look at that as an opportunity as well. Explore language clubs. We have several teachers who have minors in languages. Could they start clubs after school in all of our buildings and get some other interest going? And then you can see, again, developing curriculum as we add levels into those third, fourth, and fifth years. I am open for questions, but otherwise we are here tonight to seek your approval for adding Mandarin Chinese as a third language.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Before I go to the board with their comments, questions, can I go to the citizens' request to speak here? We have 3 on this topic: Judy Wyatt Schley, then Lisa Vanderweiss, and then Scott Ellingson. Do you want to come forward, or if you could state your name, address, please, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. The last time I held a microphone in front of the board, you were congratulating me on becoming National Board Certified in world languages other than English. And here we are again talking about world languages. I'm Judy Wyatt Schley. My address is 458 McCutcheon Lane. I've been in Hudson since 1984, and I have no plans to sell or move. I'm here to stay. I'm very concerned about the development of the program. I'm excited as can be that you are moving forward regarding languages. We need more. In fact, probably the next time I would hold this microphone would be to encourage you to maybe make a couple of languages as a graduate requirement, not just one, but more than one, like other countries of the world. However, today we're not here to talk about that. I want to first of all congratulate Sandy, because the time that I've been working with her, you are a true professional, very thorough and open in researching, and I've been very impressed and happy to work with you. So the concerns, of course, I would be in the audience clapping if I didn't have a concern or two, which we have actually put into a letter, and I hope you get a chance to read that. We're unanimous in the World Language Department regarding that, and that is, first of all, the speed at which this is going forward, not because we're afraid of change, not because we're afraid of speed, but we would like to see a good, solid base and a plan that runs from K through high school with articulation, because should we start, because we haven't chosen the languages and the plan, and it needs to all come together. And of course, there hasn't been a lot of time. We've had a couple of meetings of the K-12 World Language Committee, and we've had 2 meetings of the World Language Curriculum Development for this coming round of curriculum review. And it's just not a lot of time. And articulation is so important in making sure that everything comes together. So I guess I'm getting the feeling that there could possibly be some rubber stamp, this is the way it's going to be stuff going on. I have no clue where it's coming from or if in fact that is the truth. It's a feeling I have right now. So I do encourage you to think, how does this fit into the overall plan? And I mean, after 2 meetings of each of those committees, what can I say? So thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Judy. Lisa?
Hi, my name is Lisa Vanderwist. I'm a resident of Hudson and employee of the Hudson School District. But I actually thought the department chair did a wonderful job in speaking for us as a department. And I actually had a different concern that I wanted to bring up a little bit further down in the agenda for the citizens' request to speak about a separate item.
Well, what we're asking you to speak on is this particular agenda item. If you wish to speak about a different agenda item, you can reserve that for later in the agenda.
Okay, I thought I had checked that citizens' request to speak on my form and not the topics for action.
I had the HSD program.
Yeah, sorry.
Was there a different item you wanted to?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to?
So I thought the department, the chair of the department, did a wonderful job of sharing the concerns of the department, and I guess I'm requesting to speak later on in the meeting.
So why don't we just save your comments then until we come to the citizens' request to speak?
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Scott?
I'm Scott Ellingson. I teach Spanish at the high school, and my address is 718 6th Street. I live in Hudson. And I certainly would say that Judy spoke so well for all of us, and we are truly excited about the new language and that whole direction, especially in these tough times. I would just like to echo some of what Judy had spoken about in the end of her comments, and I guess I had a question for Sandy, if that's at all possible. Concerning the Critical Language Fellows program. I guess it might be best to ask that first and then follow up with the comments. Is that okay? Or
why don't, Scott, why don't you just proceed with your comments, and then at the end, because I want to try to get the board involved here in the discussion, so I'd much rather just have you present your comments, and then maybe we can integrate a response towards the end.
That's fine. As we said in the letter, I think our main concern is the process and the speed. It seems, but looking at the timeline that's in the board packet and that was presented, it seems that basically the decision to go to a third language and even Chinese was made a long time ago, really. And I guess as we gear up for our curriculum year to review curriculum and to look at where we want to go as a department with languages and curriculum, we found out kind of all of a sudden and really after the fact that we are going to a third language and that it is Chinese. And without consulting the professionals in the district that deal with languages every day and have studied and so forth. So we really thought that was different, that it would be done that way. And, if things go through tonight, which I would expect they would, I guess one thing that we would like the board and the community to know would be that in the future, we have to respect the process better. We talk all the time about best practices and research, and in a matter of a month, we go from, well, we can't do it at the elementary level, so, well, let's push for the secondary level because we have to have something for next year, even though this is 2025 we're gearing up for, not 2010. So we would really encourage you to pause and think and plan and research, or even have us do that, since that's what we're doing anyways for curriculum, and let's gear up for get it starting K through 12 in 2010 and do it right that first time. So that would be my main thing I'd like to get across: to respect the process, respect the professionals in the district, and because if we're asked for input, we need to know that our input is going to be valued and used. It's not going to be after the fact to look good to the community or what it might be. So that's the main thing that I would like to communicate. And I do have a question, if I may.
Go ahead.
And again, if it's answered now, that'd be great. or sometime tonight. Sandy had talked about the Critical Language Fellows through the DPI, which sounds like an awesome program, by the way. And I'm just curious, does that expire in the next year or so, or is there time to still, tap into that if we were to wait for K through 12 for 2010? Thank you so much for hearing us out tonight.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Okay, maybe before you answer that one, Sandy, we could open it up to the board. And there's a lot of information here.
Mr. President, I do have comments from Barb Van Loonen, board member, who's also chair of the Learning and Program Development Committee. She could not be here this evening and felt bad about that, but she did write a letter to the board. So you all have that. It's the yellow letter at your places, and I do want to read that as I promised Barb I would. Dear Board of Education members, my apologies for not attending the important board session. I wanted to communicate to you my feelings about the world language curriculum change you will be asked to approve tonight. As you know, we, Learning and Program Development Committee, are recommending the addition of the third language at the high school and middle school beginning next fall. After some study and committee discussion, we have recommended that language be Mandarin Chinese. I strongly support this choice for the reasons Sandy Kovach has or will share with you this evening. I also strongly support the addition of this course in fall 2009. I understand that some of the current language teachers are very concerned about the implementation time frame. The addition of this language is faster than curriculum changes in the past. However, this new language supports our HSD 2025 vision and is part of the Global Literacy GLO, Graduate Learner Outcome, that we as a board voted to approve in September. In my opinion, there are only two reasons we should not offer this course in fall 2009. The first would be if we are unable to hire appropriate staff with enough lead time to prepare the curriculum. The second obstacle would be the inability to provide adequate space for the new language course. I believe that a Mandarin Chinese course will have a smaller interest among students than the traditional languages we offer, in part because of the difficulty of this language and in part because it will be a new offering. Assuming we have only one or two sections of Chinese in the fall, the space impacts, while not ideal, are definitely not showstoppers. We would have a teacher on a cart for one or two teaching periods. I do not want to dismiss the concerns outlined by the existing language teachers. However, I honestly do not understand how the addition of a third language negatively impacts them and their ability to continue offering outstanding Spanish and German language programs. Barb Van Loonen, Chair, Learning and Program Development Committee, Hudson Board of Education.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Other board members? Comments, questions? Mark?
I have a few. I guess one of the first things that came to mind when I was looking through this is the assumption that the administration would begin this at the elementary level, and then we change our mind. So the very first thing I want to know is where should this begin? I mean, would best practice dictate that this should be implemented at the elementary level?
If you're looking at best practice of when children can learn a language best and not have issues with dialects and other things, it would be at a very young age, like beginning at like 5 or 6 and or earlier. I mean, that is research that's out there that tells us that language piece. We do anticipate when we start at the elementary, and let's say we start at like K or 1, and we roll it up. I mean, it's going to take us 6-7 years before it hits that high school, that secondary program. We're going to need to adjust when it does hit whatever language or languages we decide to do at the elementary. We're going to have to modify and adjust once it hits there. But we need to look at current. Can we have some things going on at the secondary level to help drive HSD in that third language, even while we wait for that phase and that roll up to occur? And then we'll have to make some decisions on how it will look when they kind of butt heads at 7th grade, when that roll up happens. Hope that's making sense.
And I noticed that, of course, one of the reasons for not doing it at the elementary level was the cost, but yet we have that on the plan for 2010. So I guess my question is, that doesn't seem to buy much time with respect to budgetary considerations.
Correct. And some of that's just in talking with Tim and Mary. Right now, we don't know what's going to be the impact of the state budget. By next fall, we should have a better picture of funding that we'll receive from the state and if there's any negative impact on the district. Notice I did use the word anticipate, because if the financial picture is worse than what we're anticipating, we might need to push it back even yet another year.
One other thing, when we talk to learning and program development, Mark, the point we were making about the budget, another point that we were making was when we start this elementary plan, we'll have to continue to add staffing each year, probably depending upon what the roll-up looks like. And knowing that, to make an addition at the secondary, which we wanted to do that before 6 years down the road, or 7, or whatever it is by the time it gets up there, that we would have to put that addition on top of the elementary additions. So to start with the secondary, we get a jump start with one position this fall, and we'd always planned to do some language this fall addition. So that's been in our plan. So we can do the secondary language and then start the elementary language the following year instead of having those two impact exactly at the same time. So increasing the budget impact.
I understand that argument. I guess, although, having the curriculum driven to that degree by the budget, when perhaps it would be better to implement this at the elementary level, is, I guess I think that should probably be the driver of this.
Right. I recognize the budget was one of the bullets.
Right.
Because I think the one that came out at our meeting was truly the readiness of the staff and where we're at with our literacy initiative, and whether the timing was correct in a few months.
Okay.
I think that's the more compelling reason not to start a language program in our elementary schools right now, is that we have really given them a lot of new initiatives to implement, and we've given them about as much as they can carry and still give us quality education in the classroom while they're learning to do all of these new things. So I wasn't going to say anything tonight about this because I really have not been supportive of this since I heard about it in committee, and I've been very critical in committee about this, and my feelings are pretty well known by people who have been in that committee. But I have to say that, and I do feel, I empathize with the teachers at the high school who are thinking that this has just suddenly happened. But I was just thinking, sitting here listening to the discussion, that Brian's up for re-election, and I know that one of the first conversations we had when he came on board, which would be almost 3 years ago, was about implementing specifically Mandarin Chinese, but more generally a third language throughout the district. And so this is not a new conversation from where I'm sitting. And I have to say that Sandy has done a lot of extra work on behalf of my critical analysis and has really responded to all really of my my issues. I'm very, very pleased with the extension to the middle school, because I think the earlier we start this, the better. And that's something that wasn't originally in the presentation, and one of the reasons they didn't do it a month ago, tell us about it, was that we were still talking about that specific piece. So there are just a lot of pieces. I was very, very concerned early on about the vision of just adding another, store-bought and sort of, same container foreign language class, and just sort of making the curriculum one language bigger. I was very concerned about that, and as Mary and Sandy have explained to me, that there is this strategic plan, 3 to 5 year plan, that we will expect to see, in more concrete form in July. And I am certain in that point that some of the online making a lot more variety of foreign languages available to our students at the high school level is a model we really need to move to, and I'm assured that those discussions are going on. So I guess I feel like the due diligence has been done by this committee, even though I was really set to be, I was digging my heels in, and I'm not anymore. And so I got to tell you guys, they have worked their brains out in committee on these things, and I have to say that I'm reluctant, but I'm supporting this.
Well, kind of along with what you're saying there, Cindy, first of all, I'm an enthusiastic supporter of expanding our world language offerings, and I'm particularly enthusiastic about Chinese. I think I've said that on a couple of occasions. However, it does get my attention that when we have members of our World Language Department talk about the process, and before if you had talked to me a week back, I would have probably have just thought this would have sailed through. But I've been looking at this pretty closely, and it has been really fast-tracked, for lack of a better word, and I think those concerns are legitimate. And I guess that combined with the fact that it just seems to me sort of intuitively this thing perhaps should be better off at the elementary level. I understand the budgetary concerns, but this isn't exactly, I guess, an emergency. I think we should do this right. It's not exactly analogous, but our financial situation, we've been trying to throw money at various targets and trying to something to fix it. I don't think we need to do that here. 2 committee meetings. Can you just address that for me, Sandy?
Well, I meet with the K-12 World Language monthly, so that's what we're saying. We've had the October and November meeting, and then the secondary world language started again, too, in I want to say the end of October, as far as that was more part of their curriculum improvement process. That was the meeting. But obviously, since this topic does impact them, we did discuss it at the 2 meetings. There are 2 middle school world language teachers and 2 high school that do serve on the K-12 committee and have been part of the discussions and the building of the criteria. But then in between there's administrative discussions and how we can move forward. There's learning and program development. So there's other spots where decisions are made as well in driving that forward.
Can I just ask specifically since this did not go through the normal curriculum process, I guess you said that. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. What drove the urgency to expedite the process?
Pretty much your directive as a school board that global literacy and students speaking a second language was a high priority for the school board, and how do we start driving that forward? And as Mary said, it was, can we start something at the secondary and then the following year start something at the elementary, but get both arenas, both the secondary and the elementary, moving forward with additional opportunities for language.
Can I jump in here, because I have a follow-up question to Mark. My question has to do with the continuity of this language. If we kick it off at the secondary level, okay, and we as a board have decided that we're wanting to promote the higher learning aspect, so students that graduate with 1 or 2 years of this experience, can you talk about, what are they going to be carrying forward if they go to college? I mean, what is the expectation level going to be when they, take a college level course? Is there going to be an expectation that they're going to be a little further along had they had that, experience at an earlier learning setting?
Okay, and we're currently in discussions on what does communicate, but we're talking more about conversational, that we want students to be able to have a conversation with someone in a language, which approximately would be at the end of level 2 in any of our languages, that they would be considered proficient enough to meet what you have outlined in your global literacy initiative. Right now, that's just in discussion stages. We know then we also have to come up with some kind of performance assessments to make sure that we assess students on being proficient at the level we'd like them to be at. But, Dan, now help me if I'm on the right track. Students then who start the language like as a 9th grader, they would be able to take 2, if not 4 years. Students could start next year as 11th graders and get 2 years of Chinese in before they leave. Some of them may at that point have 3 years of German and then 2 years of Chinese that they could take then have on their transcript when they leave to go to college university.
It sounds like, honestly, the fastest way for us to jumpstart that graduation requirement is to just say that students who are entering 6th grade in the fall have to have a conversational second language by the time they graduate. We just impose the graduation standard for the 6th grade class. And then students start taking languages. And what will happen is, of course, that the demand for foreign languages is going to increase because every student is going to have to take a level to become proficient in a conversational level. So, and that's a good thing. What that means is that there's room then in the secondary curriculum, middle school and high school, for an expanded offering of languages, and an Asian language is the appropriate third offering because it's linguistically different, and that's a good thing. I'm excited about the online. I'd like to see where we are giving our students in elementary school entry-level Spanish and German and Chinese, and that in middle school, when they enter 6th grade, they have to choose one to become proficient in, that they would test out in 8th grade and be conversational, and by the time they hit high school, if they want to go on to do an AP level, in any of those languages, the program is there, but if they want to be conversational in one of 50 other languages, they have that opportunity. That's the model I'd really like to see roll out if I got to see my vision roll out, which is, probably not going to happen all in one big swoop, but that's okay. I'll keep lobbying. But I think with that kind of, thinking about the graduation requirement, middle school and high school is the right place to plump up the program. If you're going to. So, if you think about it like that, there's some logic to it. And I'm kind of really getting over the budget part, because I was really put off by that. Oh, the budget says we can't afford to do it at the elementary school, so let's just figure out another way. And then I'm thinking, well, if you need 2 positions, you just spent one of them on a high school program. Why aren't we looking for the second position? I'm kind of getting over that because there's a lot of really good reasons to go with what's been proposed here.
Mary?
Sandy, can you talk about, it seems like there is some perception that to implement at 7th grade and to implement Course 1, that would be really different than what we've done in the past in other areas. Talk about what that takes to get that moving and what we've done in other content areas and other courses.
So you're specifically on other new courses?
Well, when we added sign language last year as a temporary hold just to expand for increased enrollment, did we do it in a time frame that was different than this?
Oh.
And what about Course 1? Where are we with what kind of development do we need timeline-wise to add that like any other course that we would add?
Correct. And I would put what Mary's saying with even the 3 courses that we approved last month. No curriculum's been developed for Project Lead the Way. No curriculum's been developed for AP, U.S. government. Any course that we approve in like October, November, December, whenever I brought those to you, is from that point on that we start looking at developing the curriculum, looking for textbooks, looking for other instructional resources. In the summer, then, we sit down and offer the teachers curriculum writing time to make sure things are all in place. So as far as time frame, from this point on, it would be equal to any other course that I have bring in the fall as far as what needs to be accomplished between this point and starting school in August.
Well, can I ask those, Sandy, then did those other courses that we approved in November, did they experience a similar fast track as far as going through the curriculum process?
I can honestly say that the other probably fast track would be Project Lead the Way. That did not come up through the Tech Ed department. It was driven by administration that this is something we need to consider and bring into the department.
Mary, maybe you can talk a little bit about, we had some discussions about decision making and how we need to I'm not sure how to ask this of you. different ways of going through decision-making processes at different levels of the organization. Turnaround time being faster. Do you know what I'm asking?
Not exactly, so I'll attempt it and you can kind of come back. When we think of HSD 2025, it's a bold vision. And we have not had a strategic plan in the past, in the recent past anyway, like this to guide where we're going and to guide the decisions. So that's where these, how it seems different to our teachers. This is approved by the board. It's been guided by the planning committee for HSD 2025, and they set the timeline. The timeline is to implement next year in the areas that you've identified, which is global literacy and environmental sustainability. And so this timeline that we're moving forward with is different than we've used in the past. And the third thing that I would just point out is we have a district goal as well to change our curriculum adoption process. Right now it's on a 6-year cycle. And based on the board's direction and looking at 2025 and being prepared for that, part of the process is, and Sandy has teachers working on that, is to change that process. Now we're a little ahead of that change, certainly, with this adoption, but it is a direction that's come from the board's decision making. And so I can understand where the teachers are feeling with this, but it is something that has been interesting. I would, to the board, to the public, since I've actually come here and listened to people. And so we're moving forward with, because we believe that this is something that's not in an unusual time frame to implement. It is doable in a quality way with support from the Department of Public Instruction, which Sandy's already talked about. And so I guess, is that what you're looking for, Cindy?
Exactly. It's just the idea that, business as usual for the last however many decades is probably not going to be business as usual in a 2025 district. Processes are going to change and things are going to be handled differently. And this is one area in which we're certainly going to see that that's true. And
one other comment is our plan is to, with your approval this evening, which we're recommending to you at least, is that Sandy and the principals would meet with the teachers following that so that we can talk about additional concerns. Now, Sandy's already done that, but again, do that and work to overcome those. We want to be more flexible in the district to not take the same timeline to move forward with initiatives, because we won't make that 2025 deadline. And we won't, because it's not just global literacy and environmental sustainability, it's 7 different graduate learner outcomes. And they are very in-depth. It's a great plan, but it's going to take a different way of doing business as an organization to make sure that our students are prepared. And I just point you back to, we've been talking about us as adults, and think about our students that are middle school and our high school students and their learning and what this does for them.
And I just want to add that in all of the things that I've said, I don't want to in any way at all, diminish or fail to treat our teachers with the absolute, highest respect, and to send the message to them that their input really is important. We are listening. It isn't that, I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't be a part of the process, or that they shouldn't be heard, or that we shouldn't treat their input with very high regard in every decision that we make. And teachers they're the ones with their hands on the kids, So I think they really have a grasp of what, pardon the pun, but of what our students are about. So I want to acknowledge that too.
Sandy, can you talk a little bit about how we've gone about gauging the level of interest in Chinese within the district? Do we have any sense of, what kind of demand or interest there is out there?
From the student level, it will be when we do registration. I mean, that we would do, all the communication we can to make them aware of that, and then wait for the registration numbers to come in. We did do a little dipstick with the members of the parent advisory and the DCC. Not the best return. Asked them for their top 3 choices, and of those top 3, it was Chinese, French, and Japanese. Pretty equal, which it doesn't surprise me. Those are all 3 that are pretty well developed in many schools throughout the state. So,
is there a youth options in Chinese that students can pursue?
I did check. UWRF has just recently started Chinese and Japanese. They just have 2 years of each that are available at UWRF. Then they also do have Spanish, German, French. I think there's one more. Nope, it's just those 5. I was wrong. 5.
I'd like to go back to, I'm struggling a little bit on the space issue. Last meeting we talked about Project Lead the Way and introducing or pursuing those courses, and now we have this new development. I'm very supportive of this. I think it's a great idea, but I'm trying to sort of get a global view of other competing demands here, including the space, as I look at Ed in the background here. How are we, dealing with that? I mean, is this...
Well, again, some of it will be looking at registration numbers after students register in January and February, looking at, and this is a lot of what Mr. Lucas and his team take care of as far as looking at where those numbers are, how do they spread out, create those class sizes. Do I need 2.8 English teachers? Do I need 5.5? And working out all those numbers. And, Nancy Sweet and I will also be sitting down looking with those numbers with them as well, and then finding hopefully that space, that somewhere there are numbers, because students have signed up for Chinese, that means something else isn't going to be signed up for, some other electives. So is there space that's created that way? Looking at student enrollment numbers, currently this year they've come down a little bit, so does that have impact on staffing for next year? All those are figured into the whole process.
Okay. Any other comments?
I just, Mark? A couple more, yeah. First of all, with regard to, a new and expedited process for curriculum development, I think that's fine. And if things have to move faster, I understand that. But I think any process that doesn't involve stakeholders to the extent they feel they're part of that process is wrong. So we can certainly move with more speed and change the way we do things. But the process is important. Mm-hmm. And I still can't, it seems to me that the implementation of this should begin at the elementary level. And I don't see much downside to waiting 1 year to 2010. It appears that was where we started, and we changed our mind. If we do that, we can get the ducks in a row. The World Languages Department will have the opportunity to weigh in, look at the curriculum, and I think we'll get it started the way we had intended. I don't see the necessity for the jump start for doing this, for next year. I want to repeat, I'm enthusiastically supportive of adding a world language. Absolutely. I'm enthusiastically supporting Mandarin Chinese. I can't even imagine offering anything but that. But it's not going to break my heart to have to wait another year to do this the right way. And I guess I'd like to encourage my fellow board members to think about that.
Brian?
I don't understand. So you're saying that we'd wait for 6 years before we do something in secondary? Because it seems like it's 2 separate issues that we have. We're gonna have a secondary world language, right? And then we're gonna have an elementary world language, and take a while for elementary world language to kind of build through. Mm-hmm. So I think they're not mutually exclusive, but they're going to be 2 separate programs. And at a certain point, we're going to want to have a third option for a secondary world language. If we do it next year or in 5 years, there's going to be a K through 5 program, then it's going to be a secondary program. So I think this is just to say, let's get the secondary program running right now.
Well, I mean, I guess, I understand the point of your question, Brian. I'm not, that's sort of above my pay grade to answer. I'm not sure the best way of implementing a language program. It may not be that, that it's a problem to wait 5 years to get to high school. I don't know. I'm not sure the best way to do this.
So
I'm not an educator.
So I'm looking at current sixth graders right now. Is this opportunity that we can, along with grade programs in Spanish and German, that would give them another opportunity. And why deny them that opportunity right now? So that's. I have some other comments on the interaction with the world language department. I think I agree with you on that. I think it bothers me that we all read your note and it didn't fall unnoticed, and it's a. So I would like to see this as a celebration or kind of a push as a group. So it's unfortunate that we're not completely aligned on this. So thank you for sharing your concerns on that. But the fact of the matter stays for me personally is why we know we're going to need an elementary program, but we also going to need a secondary program, and let's not deny the opportunity right now for our current students in secondary ed to benefit from this program. And also, my other comment is I don't really think this is although the board is talking about this, we had 16 very focused volunteers on this 2025 team. And one of the biggest things they said to us is, please do not do a plan and make it look good and put up on the shelf. And please, it may be we have to do little chunks, but let's start acting on this plan. And it was really important to them. And there were students involved, right? And there was teachers involved. And so I think there's people in the community also looking for us to start doing a small action to start implementing this plan. And I wish it would have been a better way that we got together on this, but it is what it is, and so that's why I'm supporting this.
Okay. I just want to respond to Brian here if I could. Now, I'm not saying by delaying it 1 year, Brian, we don't have a secondary plan. Maybe we have. I mean, right now the plan is to do this, and then the next year put the elementary, and maybe the pieces can be reversed. Maybe they can be done simultaneously. I'm just saying that I think it just appears to me that the thought process used to putting this whole thing together maybe isn't as good as it should be. So no, I'm not writing off the secondary. I'm I guess looking at a 1 year delay is what I'm looking at.
And then we never have started Spanish or German at the elementary level. We start them at the middle school level. It's not different to do this. And there are, I still think, compelling reasons to plump up that program. I really do think if we're going to give all this talk, then we better start having a discussion about a graduation requirement. And if we're going to do that, we need to start making sure that we can open enough classes. And 6th and 7th is where we've introduced languages for a long, long time. I mean, in the 70s, you could take German in 4th grade, but we haven't offered German to 4th graders for a very long time. So I guess I am sad. I am sad that we're not all in the same place. And I would like us to be very thoughtful about how we roll out these new initiatives. But I think I have to come down on Brian's side with the fact that implementing something at the secondary level, not implementing something at the elementary should not stop us from implementing something at the secondary.
Okay.
I would have to agree with Brian's comments as well. I would like to see us roll this out at the high school level and continue to focus on trying to plan something at the elementary level. So, Sandy, do you have any concerns about rolling out this program and making it be successful?
No, I know I can work with the secondary administration and the staff. It's one of those, we just need to flip from the cup half empty to the cup half full, and how do we take this forward? And we've already discussed this as a team that, depending on what happens tonight, they will they will embrace the decision, and we'll make decisions on how to move forward.
But in the future, we'll also have a discussion with them about how, in the future, they would like to play a bigger role in a decision-making, even if it's not using the business-as-usual old-style channels.
Correct. And that's some of what we've been discussing, too, on just the whole, how do we move that curriculum process so there's various avenues for new courses to come forward.
So we can assure our staff that in the future they'll have a more active participation in curriculum as they did in the past.
Try to make it as equal to. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
There's some very good dialogue here, and quite frankly, I'm sort of not sure where I'm coming down on this. I certainly, agree that we have 2025 goals and that we need to start working on. But I also recognize that, we've created processes within this district, intentional processes, including how we deal with our curriculum that I view as very important and that we do need to respect. So I guess I'm struggling a little bit. So any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for this item, HSD 2025 implementation of additional world language for secondary.
Move to approve the world language program Mandarin for the secondary.
We have a motion by Brian.
Second.
A second by Lynn. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So 3-2. Okay, that motion was approved. We'll move on to topics for action E, the tax-deferred retirement plans in agreement with Mid-America Administrative Retirement. Thanks, Sandy. Tim, are you going to cover that item?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Dan. If you turn to page 24 in your board packet, there's a short narrative there. The district has offered a 403B plan to employees for several years. Just give you a little bit of history. The plans were created in the 1950s, and they'd be the cousin to a 401K plan for private companies. And up until January 1st of 2009, the plans have been low maintenance. They've been intended for governments and nonprofit hospitals, and they've been fairly low maintenance, simple to comply with. And then if we fast forward to January 1 of 2009, the IRS has put in the most sweeping changes in a 403B plan since they were created back in the 50s. And so that necessitates us to look at a third-party administrator for the 403B plans. And again, I won't read through the narrative. You hopefully had a chance to look at that. But we've narrowed down the provider to Mid-America Administrative and Retirement Solutions. And if you turn to the next page, there's a short agreement. It's pretty boilerplate. We've done some research into this, and yeah, actually it is a pretty short agreement. Yeah, it's pretty boilerplate. It's what other districts are signing. Eau Claire has gone through the same process and is working with the same outfit. And so we've done a fair amount of homework on this. And so what we'd like to do is recommend that you approve this compliance services agreement with Mid-America so that we can move forward and meet our January 1, 2009 deadline.
Okay. We do have a citizen's request to speak on this item. Scott, do you want to come back up and share your comments? Yeah.
Scott Ellingson.
Wait.
Scott Ellingson.
Scott, why don't you just come up here and sit at the table?
Scott Ellingson, same address as before and hopefully same profession.
Tim, help me out. I guess I'm wondering if this. I'm wondering if this is related. If this is like the TSA program, that kind of thing.
Also known as TSA, right?
Okay. And would this Mid-America allow for what I believe is the most popular option amongst employees, the WEA TSAs, to continue as
Yes.
they have?
What we've done here is we have worked with the provider, and we're getting feedback, and we've been through this and checked with their feedback. What we want to do is make this transition as seamless as possible. So yes, WEA is included, would be included.
Great, that's good to hear, and I hope that if that were to be in the potential for changing, that we would consult some of the employee groups on that before we would change that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott. Any board questions, comments for Tim? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of.
So moved.
We have
Second.
a motion by Mark, second by Cindy. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's approved. We'll move on to the consent items: personnel, expenditure, special education policies, and the addition of the Y Camp expenditures.
Board members, there is an addition that was omitted from the personnel list, and I just want to point that out so that you know that it's there. We talked about it already this evening, and unfortunately, Corey McIntyre's position was not included. So it should include Corey McIntyre. Position is Director of Student Services, replacing Director Barbara Poon at the district level for 260 days and starting July 1st.
Does that change the expenditures at all?
No, just the
okay.
personnel list.
Okay. Anybody have the total dollar expenditures?
Yeah, I have it, Mr. President. Move that we approve the consent items, including the Director of Financial Services be authorized to pay bills in the amount of
I do have a total if you want to approve the total.
What's the total?
Go ahead,
Total
Tim.
is $2,177,283.31, and that is the $2,159,000 plus $17,000 of YMCA expenditures.
Second.
Okay. Well, are you making the motion?
He made the motion.
Brian made the motion. Cindy seconded it. Any discussion?
Clarification, that does include hiring Corey McIntyre as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'll amend my motion to approve the consent items, including payment to authorize Director of Financial Services to authorize pay in the amount of $2,172,283.31.
Okay. Thank you.
And including the hiring of Corey McIntosh.
With the hiring.
Second.
And we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion is approved. Maybe while I get my notes, Lynn, are you ready to speak on the committee report, facilities and grounds?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Facilities and Grounds Committee met on November 19th with 4 agenda items. First on the agenda, Mr. Lucas and Ms. DeVos, the athletic director, brought forth a proposal for fundraising banners at the baseball field to help offset some costs for maintenance and field improvements. The committee had some concerns about selling advertising banners and asked Mr. Lucas and Ms. DeVos to look at other alternatives. The committee recommended looking at some other options, including plaques, recognition plaques, or banners to recognize contributions to the program. And they are looking at other alternatives and incorporating that feedback, and will be coming back to us with some recommendations.
Okay, thanks.
Second on our agenda was an update for the timing on the EP Rock security entrance. Cameras are scheduled for installation and the remainder of the work for the spring of 2009. We also talked about Gateway fundraising, which is moving along. There's been $65,000 contributed to date, and we're working out plans for additional fundraising strategies and opportunities. And then the committee also reviewed a proposal for future security camera installations at other elementary schools and looked at those cost comparisons. We'll be coming back with a recommendation.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. Any questions for Lynn and the Facilities and Grounds Committee? If not, I'll go to the Governance and Policy Committee. That's the committee I chair. At that meeting, we talked about the diligent board books, which we reviewed this evening. We also talked about the issue that Nancy talked about with the boundaries and the options that we have. We also had a discussion about the special education audit, and we're in the process of updating those policies. And then we had a discussion about future meeting dates. So,
comment?
Yeah.
On the diligent board books, are we talking the next best alternative? Have we talked about at least getting a bid from them just to make sure we get the most aggressive prices we can from diligent? Because sometimes if you get multiple bids and diligent knows that, they'll get aggressive with their bid.
Diligence bid is extremely aggressive.
How do we know that?
Well, their normal price is $14,000 a year. So we looked at it in relationship to the other companies, and we are not willing to recommend any of them to you at all. And also, we looked at the pricing in relationship to those, and I believe this is the lowest. Tim, could you help me out on that one? I can spend time sitting here and looking at them all, but
I'll just say industry best practice is I wouldn't look at someone's list discount off a list because that's not always the best way to look at what kind of deal you're getting. The best way to look at what deal you're getting is get the next best alternative and get an aggressive price.
I was in on that discussion. I asked that exact same question, and I cannot remember the dollars right offhand, but I have to say that when they had all the numbers right in front of them, this discounted price was the least expensive option.
Okay.
The next least expensive one was more expensive than this.
All right.
Well, certainly we can, pursue any better price that we can get on that, don't you think, Tim? I mean, if there is any opportunity, we
doesn't hurt us to go get one more bid from the next best alternative.
But they did price those alternatives already. They just don't have it in front of them.
Right. Yeah.
But they did have it in front of them when we talked in committee.
Yeah.
correct.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
We'll
Help
move
me
on
out.
to Learning and Program Development Committee. Mary?
Okay.
Since
Thanks for Cindy helping me out there. So now I'll turn to Learning and Program Development Committee. We first looked at a multi-year goal for the high school online courses. So we looked at increasing the number of students' participation online. Sandy, working with Ed and Nancy Toll, has come up with a plan to do that. And so they're looking at a number of different areas and presented that to the committee. We also looked at the graduate survey results. Sandy shared those with us that we had. And just for your information, we looked at the percentage of our graduates going to four-year college and going to vocational technical college. And last year, 2006, 2007, because that's the data that we have, 85.1% of our students were going that direction. If you go back to HSD 2025, certainly that is one of our goals in HSD 2025 as well. And if I take an 11-year average of the information that Sandy presented, 80% of our students over that period have gone to four-year, two-year, or technical colleges. We also had an update from Sandy on global literacy and the work of the committee and where that's going. And then, as you've heard this evening, there was a conversation about high school world language recommendation, and then that was modified based on feedback from teachers to include secondary, middle school, and high school.
Okay. Any questions for Mary? If not, we'll move on to personnel and negotiations. Excuse me, Mark.
Dan, the Personnel Committee met November 25th, and all agenda items were discussed in closed session. They included employment and compensation issues and issues related to negotiations.
That was quick. Thank you. Any questions for Mark? If not, we do have a citizen's request. Lisa, do you want to come back up?
Hi.
Not working again.
Lisa, if you could again say your name, address, and all that good information.
Okay.
For the record, thank you.
Hi. My name is Lisa Vanderwist. My address is 1509 Pinewood Lane, apartment number 4. I'm a resident of Hudson and an employee of the Hudson School District, and I'm in my 4th year of teaching at the high school. And when I graduated from UW River Falls in 2005 and received a job offer from the Hudson School District at that time I was hesitant to accept, but after having a conversation with my university supervisor, I felt persuaded to accept the offer, as he had been in education for some time and had observed many students in many districts and had nothing but good things to say about the district. I feel to be working for the Hudson School District, where it is evident, or I feel fortunate to be working for the Hudson School District, where it is evident that the Board of Education, administrators, and staff strongly value student learning. However, I have noticed some changes in the past couple years since I have been at the school district that concern me and cause me to question how much longer the district's longstanding successful programs and overall staff morale will continue. Over the course of the past couple of years, I have witnessed staff morale declining among staff at not only the high school in their conversations that are taking place, but also I've heard it happening among several other district buildings. I attribute this recent decline of staff morale to decisions being made and programs being implemented without seeking or valuing the input of the individuals that are most directly being impacted by these decisions. And it's not to say that the programs being planned or implemented are not valuable or that the district's vision isn't a vision to be valued, but I just feel like the manner in which it's being sought is bringing a decline in the staff morale. And it seems like there's a lot of things, and not just the program that I was directly impacted by tonight, but other initiatives and programs that are being implemented where it's almost like we feel like we're being forced and told what to do, and that our input is not being sought or valued. And I think if staff morale isn't good and isn't high, that this is going to have a direct impact on student learning when their employees of the district aren't happy. I know the board and the administrators to be educated, conscientious individuals, and I think that showed tonight in your discussion on whether or not to decide to implement the third language at the high school. And I believe it is not the intention of any board member or any administrator for their actions to be directly impacting staff morale. And that is why I wanted to speak to all of you tonight, so that you could be aware of the impact some of the new district's programs and initiatives have been having on staff morale at multiple buildings. I do not question that every person in this room wants what is in the best interest for our students. However, I believe this can best be achieved through collaboration amongst and a mutual respect for district professionals at all levels.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa.
I appreciate that you're using recycled paper.
What's that?
I appreciate that you've used recycled paper.
Oh, I always do.
Okay. We will move on to, I guess we're to the point of adjourning to closed session. We do have a closed session. Oh, okay. Board administrator response to comments? Mary?
I just thought that was very, I thought that was very courageous. And obviously, Lisa, you were very nervous speaking candidly about that, and I'm just so proud of you for having come to us with that and talked with us in person about that. An email would have been so much more my style and so much more cowardly. And I just I really appreciate your comments and your courage. Thank you.
I think I want to first comment, kind of go back to our decision about world language. And certainly our teachers have expressed their concerns, and what I want to assure them is that, yes, a decision was made tonight, very heartfelt from all board members, considering their concerns, to move forward. And I can assure you that Sandy and the principals will be working with you to work through those concerns and also implement Mandarin Chinese in the best way that we do in Hudson. And so you will be part of that process moving forward and working through that, as well as I know we have representatives on the elementary, well, it's not the elementary team, it's the facilitators. We'll be working through the world language at the elementary. So hopefully that there's some comfort in that. Lisa, your comments certainly were heartfelt, and I appreciate you bringing those forward. And we are in a time of transition. The board and administration it's been very important, as we've talked about, raising expectations for learning and for performance in the district. And as we move forward with changing our practices, it is difficult for everybody. It's difficult for administrators, it's difficult for teachers, and we have involved teachers in this process. Not every teacher has been involved, but certainly I'm just going to talk about a few initiatives and how they've moved forward. One of the models that we have used, and I think the middle school is a perfect example in assessment. And teachers have been trained, a group of core teachers have been trained in assessment, and they are moving that forward with the rest of their staff along with the administration. And teachers are making changes in their classroom. They're creating common assessments together, and they're also talking about engaging students in their own assessment, and have been working on that as well. And some very phenomenal things are occurring, and we're seeing good results and positive learning outcomes. Go to the high school, and the high school as well is working on common assessments. There's a teacher team that has some training in it, and I think that's being expanded. I'm not positive how that all is right at the present time. And they are working on developing common assessments as well, as we guarantee for our students that, as we've talked about, the same every classroom, every day, every student, every teacher. So that if you take biology, for example, in one classroom and you take it in another classroom, we know what those standards are, and we know that the students in each classroom will have the same level of rigor, relevance, and content. And, we're shifting to that as a district, which is important, and there are changes for teachers that are occurring. Again, it's a transition time. We do have teachers, I can speak highly of the biology teachers at the high school who are moving this forward themselves, and actually presented to the staff at the high school. And we're involved in the changes, and they're very excited about the changes that they've seen. One of the teachers talked about, this is the first time that there have only been 2 Fs that they've seen in their class, and we're raising our expectations. So yes, I know it is a time throughout the district that we are transitioning, and it's hard on all of us to make those changes and work together to do it. We want teacher leaders to be part of that process, and I know that we have them, but again, it's a lot of change for all of us, and I know it's teachers in the classroom are feeling that.
Thanks, Mary, for those comments. Anyone else? Otherwise, we'll go on to item 13, adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent C, for the purpose of considering employment and compensation of a public employee, and E, for the purpose of preparing for employee negotiations with all represented groups. Have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Lynn.
Second.
Second by Brian. Any discussion? Let's have a roll call vote.
Robson, aye.
Chernahoy, aye.
Kaiserscheid, aye.
Bell, aye.
Crimmins, aye.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming this evening.